Welcome back. Dr. Peter Glidden here with another live edition of Fire Your MD Now. We are, in fact, live today. I've been out for the last 2 days with the flu. That's right. Got the flu. Tune in next week. Most of next week it's going to be all about the flu, myths and murders and all kinds of nonsense being perpetrated on you, false information, misleading information about influenza, about the flu shot, about safe and effective ways to combat the flu. And we're going to track my own recovery from the flu. I am in day 3 of it now, day 4 of it, feeling pretty good. Yesterday and the day before, not so good. Bouncing right back, though. You know, the secret to holistic health is how frequently you get sick through, if you're doing your job right, over the course of a year, how frequently are you incapacitated? Now, if you're eating correctly, if you're upping your antioxidants appropriately, if you're supplementing your diet with the 90 essential nutrients and selenium and antioxidants, then, relative to everybody else in your world around you, living in the same geographical location, who does not do these things, you're going to get sick less frequently. You're going to enjoy a greater quality of life, and when you do get sick, because it happens, this is life, right? You're going to be sicker for a shorter period of time, and your symptoms are going to be much less severe than those in your milieu. Okay? So, we're not talking about some Pollyanna utopian world where nobody gets sick. What we're talking about is supporting and promoting the body's optimal health. And when you're in a state of optimal health, it's going to take a great deal more stress to knock you down. And when you do get knocked down, because, life is a great big bowl of stress and it comes rolling in, baby, you're going to bounce up much faster than your contemporaries, and this is the deal. So tune in next week, when the majority of the week it's going to be all about influenza, things that you can do about it, and lies, cheats and lies from lying liars that you've been told about influenza. So tune in next week. Tell all your friends and family members about it. I am Dr. Peter Glidden. This is Fire Your MD Now. Since I've been out of commission for the last 2 days, we are going to go right to the phones right now. Sean is calling up with a question about tuberculosis, I think, from Utah. Sean, thank you so much for the call. You are live.
Hi, Dr. Glidden. This is Sean Buchanan out in Salt Lake City. How you doing?
Very good, Sean Buchanan. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Hey, we've got a friend. He's 18 years old, who's in the Army, and he's having some problems. They've told him he doesn't have a presumptive diagnosis, but they've told him that they believe that he is a carrier of TB. They told him that they tested him and they put him on a medication. And let me read you a little bit more. They said his liver enzymes keep climbing. He's not on any supplementation, but he takes a medication called Isoniazid. Have you ever heard of that one?
I have not.
Yeah, he also takes B6 along with the medication, and he went in this morning to the emergency room. He's got significant belly pain in his lower right abdomen. He's got his whole rib cage, the entire area he's just dying. It's just it feels like somebody's almost like sitting on his chest. He says also when he raises his hands above his head, the pain in his chest is intense, and it makes it harder for him to breathe, and he says his heart races. Now, he just had an EKG, a chest x-ray, an ultrasound of all his organs, and also had blood work done. And his doctors have not come back with any kind of a diagnosis presumptively yet, of course, right? Yeah. But here's another thing they told him. They said that 10% of the population has full-blown TB, and 30% of the population are carriers of TB. That's what they told him.
10% of the population has tuberculosis. You got to be kidding me. I mean, yeah. I'd have to look that statistic up, but that just doesn't sound right to me. 10% of 350 million, that would be what? 3,500,000 people have tuberculosis in the United States?
I don't think so. Right, does it?
Yeah, no. And quite frankly, if you have influenza, you know about it, and it's a relatively easy thing to diagnose. If you have breast cancer, you know about it, and it's a relatively easy thing to diagnose. If you have kidney disease, you know about it, and it's a relatively easy thing to diagnose. So for goodness sake, if somebody has tuberculosis, you're telling me that it's going to be a hidden disease? I don't think so. I think they're blowing smoke. You know, my colleague, Dr. Wallach, who's still an active member of the Air Force, quite frankly. He's a colonel in the Air Force. He's not actively serving as a colonel in the Air Force, but his military ID card never expires. He can be called back into service at any moment in time. He's a big supporter of our military, always has been and always will be. And one of my favorite quotes that Dr. Wallach says is, there's two places you can give your life for your country, on the battlefield and at the VA, right? Because generally speaking, the medical care that's delivered by the military when it comes to chronic disease is horrible. I mean, it is the epitome of old-fashioned, outdated pharmaceutical medicine. The stuff that the VA is good for and that military hospitals, in generally speaking, are good for is surgery and trauma when it's necessary. They do a good job with that stuff. They could do a lot better if they employed medical nutrition, but of course they're not going to. It's all drugs and surgery all the time. So it's impossible to make a diagnosis over the phone in a case like this, or quite frankly in a case of anything. And that's not our job. It's not our job to diagnose things. It's our job to support and promote the health of the body once the individual already has secured a diagnosis. Now, given his symptoms, what I would recommend is he have a high-definition ultrasound of his appendix and also a high-definition ultrasound of his liver. If the symptoms persist for a long enough period of time, he might want to have a liver biopsy. When the abdomen is involved, there's any number of things that can happen because the abdomen is ripe with nerves. And you can have a problem in your appendix, and the appendix is in the lower right side of your abdomen, the lower right quadrant of your abdomen. But when you have appendicitis, it can show up in the upper left-hand side of your abdomen and go into your back. It can show up in the middle of your abdomen. It's migrating phantom pains. So just going on the presentation of the pain is a very tricky situation when you're trying to nail down an accurate diagnosis of something that's going on in the abdominal cavity. If it's a big bad boogaboo, then they should be able to find it. If they've already done the battery of, requisite kind of generic, testing that you do when someone presents with abdominal pain and he's clear, that's a good sign, quite frankly. So what we do, of course, with everybody, and especially with people that have the center of gravity of their symptoms in the abdominal cavity, right? Gluten-free. This kid has to be gluten-free. He has to be gluten-free starting yesterday. I don't even want him to pronounce the word gluten. He has to abstain from it 100%. He needs to look up the side effects of the medication that they've put him on, because one of the most common causes of weird symptoms that are undiagnosable, you do all the standard tests and he's fine, but he's in a massive amount of pain. It could be a drug interaction, a drug side effect. So you want to make sure that the signs and symptoms that he's experiencing now are not side effects of this drug. I've never even heard of this drug. And often what will happen is people are on two different medications. The doctors, because they're just incompetent, don't check to see whether or not, the new drug that they prescribed is going to have any negative interactions with the old drug, and sometimes they don't even know, but oftentimes they just neglect it and overlook it because of incompetence. And this is a thing, I talk a lot about the misconceptions that we have regarding medical care and the false trust that we put in our medical doctor and the built-in failures of their medical philosophy and their point of view, right? Because of their reductionistic, pharmaceutical centrist point of view, they are by definition incapable of helping anybody recover their health in the face of a chronic illness. They're incapable of doing it. They can't do it. They don't fix things. They manage things with drugs. okay, when it comes to a chronic illness. I talk a lot about that, but what I don't talk enough, I think, about is the remarkable amount of incompetence that happens inside of the medical profession. You know, just the wrong diagnosis, just the wrong test being performed, just you miss the obvious. You neglect to see that the patient was on this drug and you give him another drug and the two drugs conflict and it hurts the patient. You overlook it because you're incompetent. There's a ton of incompetence that goes on inside of the medical profession, and I could argue that there's more per person, per professional unit, per doctor than there is in any other medical profession, because one of the failings of the medical model here is the doctors, especially if they work in hospitals, especially if they work in emergency rooms, are overworked. Which is evidenced by the fact that 51%, according to Harvard University, 51% of emergency room medical doctors are addicted to street drugs, alcohol, or prescription medication. Why is this? Because they're overworked. I doubt it's any different in the VA, but I don't have any facts to back that up. But my position here is, let's not overlook the obvious. Let's look to see if his symptoms are in fact related to the side effect of the medication that he's on. And in the meantime, so in the meantime, what I would do is I'd put him on the gluten-free diet. I'd give him the healthy digestion pack, selenium, and Z-Radical. That's what I would do for the first 60 days. The healthy start pack, selenium, and Z-Radical. I'd round that up for him for 60 days, see how he responds to that, and then move forward. And, as far as the tuberculosis stuff goes, I kind of doubt it, man. I mean, that seems like a stretch to me, but, what are you going to do?
Yeah, we hear, how many myths do we hear every day, And now, one thing, did I mention to you that his liver enzymes are way, way elevated?
Okay, when liver, you might have, but I probably missed it. When liver enzymes are elevated, I start jumping around for joy, because the liver is an extremely forgiving organ. You can surgically remove over half of it and it'll grow back. So what do we do to support and promote the health of the liver? Selenium. More selenium. So if he's got a liver problem, he gets 4 bottles of selenium a month and as much Z-Radical as he can afford. 866-582-9933. That's the call-in number to reach me live today or any day that I'm live. Usually it's Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Central Time. That's 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to talk to a live human being, if you're listening to the live broadcast or a podcast, and you would like information about the health opportunity, the business opportunity, or just, what's up with this stuff, give us a call at 855-347-3696. I have a number of friendly, informed, living, breathing human beings who can talk you through all of this and see whether or not the health opportunity, the product, just get the products at the wholesale price. If that floats your boat, Jim Dandy. Or maybe you'd like to make a difference in your world. Maybe you'd like to stand up for your family and your community and for yourself and bring your entourage into the light of medical nutrition, making a difference, taking a stand for your health starting today by becoming a longevity business builder. That number for information, 855-347-3696. We're going to go right back to the phone now. Troy is calling up from Denver, I think, with a question about his spine. Hey, thanks for the call, Troy. You are live.
Hello, Dr. Glidden, a big fan of yours.
Hey, Troy, thanks so much. It's very kind of you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, I am, actually. I am getting better every day. Yesterday, the day before yesterday was the worst. I'm hoping I'm going to be out of the woods 100% by Sunday. Listen, are you getting snowed in Denver? What's the deal?
Oh, not yet. It hasn't even really snowed yet. We had a few flurries, but just made the ground wet. Nothing serious yet. But
yeah, are you a football fan?
Oh, you know it. I'm pretty psyched for tomorrow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 16 degrees, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to be a cold day for sure. But, I'll be inside watching.
That'll be fun, man. Well, hey, good luck, man. So how can I help you? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I'm involved with longevity, and I'd like to get my parents involved. And my dad has been diagnosed with spinal stenosis, and they want to get him this, sounds like a dangerous surgery, and I'm trying to talk him out of it, and I was wondering what we can do to help him out.
Well, there's a lot that we can do to help him out. I mean, there's a lot that we can do to help him out, but the problem is, right, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And this is one of the fundamental disconnects that we have in longevity, because the fact of the matter is that we are the authors and the carriers and the standard bearers for cutting-edge, new-fashioned, science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. And the information, the clinical information that we have access to, nobody else has access to it, nobody else knows about it. So, it's like we're standing up, in the 1400s and saying, hey, everybody, guess what? The earth isn't flat, it's a round ball, and everybody looks at us like, our head's on backwards. Well, it's hard to bring people into the light of medical nutrition inside of a culture which for 100-plus years has been forcing the false notion down people's throat that the only way to go is drugs and surgery, right? Now, especially our parents' generation, it's tough, man. Listen, my parents wouldn't even listen to me. My parents did not listen to me. And they didn't, and I'm me, and they didn't listen to me, right? So what possible hope does somebody who doesn't have 20 years of clinical experience as a licensed naturopathic doctor do? So one of the tools that we use here, Troy, and maybe you're doing this already and I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm just going to reiterate this for the listening audience because it's pretty important. So rather than trying to convince people in your life, friends and family members, right, that this way is the correct way, rather than yourself trying to convince them, the best thing to do is to bring them to the expert, right? So lend them, give your dad a copy of The Best of Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Give your dad a copy of Who Made the MD King. Give your dad a copy of one of Dr. Wallach's CDs. He's recorded, I think, 20-plus CDs, right? Give your dad a copy of Healing is Easy, whatever one you think would work for him. And usually, for folks in our parents' generation, Dr. Wallach's information is more resonantly correct because Dr. Wallach's 73 years of age. He's in the same generational bracket, right? So what I would recommend is that you let your dad listen to that CD, and then once he's listened to it, he's going to be more inclined to do what you tell him to do. And the recommendation always is, you can't unsurgery anything, so give us a 90-day window to try to make a difference before you go down that road. Stick around with me, Troy. We're up against another hard break. When we come back, I'll tell you exactly what you can do to help your dad. We're talking currently to Troy from Denver. Is pretty excited about tomorrow's game, as he well should be. That's the quarterfinals in the NFL. Pretty exciting time if you're a football fan. So go Broncos, baby, go Broncos. Now, his dad has spinal stenosis, and he wants to know what he can do. Well, regardless of what he can do, it's what his father will do, right? So what I recommend is you let people in your family or people that just, in order to show people what we're doing, don't you tell them what we're doing. Have the expert tell them what they're doing. So lend them a CD. Lend them one of Dr. Wallach's CDs. Lend them one of my CDs. Bring them to a webinar. Bring them to the radio show, right? Let them listen to it straight from the horse's mouth. Because when they hear it from the medical expert, they're more likely to believe it. And, this is just human nature, right? Now, Doc Wallach's in his 70s, and so he's a better candidate for people of that generation. So that's what I would do. If you're up against it as a longevity person and you're having a hard time bringing people into the fold, it's probably because you're talking too much. Really, the only sentence that you really need to know to be effective here with longevity is this, quote, I know a doctor who says you don't have to suffer with that condition. If I lend you this CD, will you listen to it? Unquote. That's all you have to say. I know a doctor who says you don't have to suffer with that. If I lend you this CD, will you listen to it? That's a yes or a no question. You just keep asking that question until you get a yes or a no. It's that simple. And if you get a no, thank you very much. Have a nice day. I'm on my way. If you get a yes, then you lend them the CD, schedule a time to recover the CD, and when you recover the CD, just ask them if they liked it or not. And if they liked it, then you can invite them to an Introduction to Longevity event where we go into a little bit more detail about the health opportunity and the business opportunity, and people can then see where they fit, if at all, in our paradigm. So that's the best way to do it. Now, spinal stenosis is an interesting physiological phenomenon, so let me break it down here for you folks. In the human anatomy, you've got your brain and you've got your spinal cord, right? The spinal cord is this giant trunk of nerves that comes out of the back of your brain and goes all the way down your back into your tailbone. And all of the nerves that innervate everything below your neck, below your head, come out of the spinal cord. So the spinal cord, because it's, your central nervous system, is protected by bones. Your brain, of course, is protected by your skull. Well, your spinal cord is protected by your backbones, your vertebrae. And those are the bones that chiropractors and osteopathic physicians, old-time osteopathic physicians, adjust. Chiropractors are way better at it than osteopaths are. So, now, you have 30 plus vertebrae, 30 plus backbones that are protecting the spinal cord, and there's a little canal, a little hole in each of the vertebrae that the spinal cord goes through, a little hole in the vertebrae that the spinal cord goes through. And when that hole gets narrow, is narrower than it should be, it squeezes on the nerves or the spinal cord, and that causes pain. And that's what spinal stenosis is. It's a narrowing of the corridor in your spinal cord, in your backbones that the spinal cord goes through. It's a fascinating thing. And actually, if you want to get technical, the little opening in the vertebrae that the spinal cord goes through is called the trefoil, I think the trefoil canal, if memory serves me correctly, all right? Trefoil. But it's like a little hole in the backbone that the vertebrae, that the spinal cord goes through. And when that little hole gets narrowed, it causes pressure on the nerves or on the spinal cord, and that causes pain. Now, medical doctors, of course, are not interested, nor do they have any training in what causes spinal stenosis. They don't give a damn. They'll say it's genetics. They'll say, oh, well, that's just life, which is a realization that made my head explode when I finally came to terms with the stark, cold reality that medical MDs are not schooled in the genesis of disease. They're not taught what causes disease to happen. They're not. A medical doctor doesn't know what causes spinal stenosis, doesn't know what causes high blood pressure. Medical doctors don't even know what causes heartburn, for goodness sake. And these are the people we go to for medical care? You got to be kidding me. They're trained in how to manage symptoms and diagnoses with drugs until things get so bad that they have to be removed surgically. That's their job. It's not to get to the root cause of the illness and fix it. It's not to find the cause and the source of the mold and fix it. It's just to paint over the mold. That's their job. So, they don't know what causes spinal stenosis. We don't know what causes spinal stenosis, but we can postulate what causes spinal stenosis, and we can take steps to support and promote the body's ability to fix itself, to optimize its health in the face of a diagnosis of spinal stenosis, and that's what we do. Now, hold on just a sec. Excuse me, day 4 of the flu. Getting better, though, every day. Stay tuned. And next week, we're going to dial it in for you. 100% influenza, the myths, conventional medical myths about influenza, and what you can do effectively to take steps to make yourself better once you've got it in rapid form, and what you can do to not get it in the first place. Now, spinal stenosis, okay, what part of the body does it involve? Bone. It involves your backbone, right? It's a narrowing of the backbone. Well, so this isn't rocket science. What are we going to do? We're going to provide therapeutics that support and promote the health of bones, right? Am I going to support and promote the health of the liver here? No. Am I going to support and promote the health of the kidney here? No. Am I going to support and promote the health of the skin? No. I'm going to support and promote the health of the bone because that's the part of the body that's afflicted. So how do we do that? Well, we give the body bone nutrients. Really, it's not rocket science. And we stop eating food that sucks minerals out of the bone that hurts the bones. You know, there are foods that hurt the bones. The biggest source of food that hurts the bones is a diet that's high in protein or high in sugar. So we have to knock down our protein consumption, and we have to knock down, or quite frankly, eliminate our sugar consumption. And also no pop, no soda pop. This would be in addition to eliminating the 10 bad foods. So we eliminate the 10 bad foods, no soda pop, and limit our protein intake to about 60 grams of protein a day. 60 grams of protein a day. That's 3 eggs, 2 to 3 eggs, depending on how big the egg is, and, a hamburger. That's like 60 grams of protein. That's plenty. That's all that you need in order to have a strong and healthy body. So we clean up our diet, and then what do? We give the body bone nutrients and joint nutrients because the bones are formed around a cartilage skeleton. If you were to dissect a living bone out of a human body, it's hard. It's flexible. It's not like Mr. Bones that was hanging up in your high school biology class, and those bones are hard as a rock, and you could take 10 football players and they wouldn't be able to bend the leg bone. But a living bone is yellow in color, and it's semi-flexible. You can bend it a little bit until it breaks. Well, the hard part of the bone is a mineral casing that's put on top of a cartilage skeleton. Your skeleton has a skeleton. How about that? So it's kind of like, a scaffolding. When scaffolding goes up, well, that's a bad metaphor. It's kind of like this, I don't know a good metaphor off the top of my head, but a bone is a cartilage matrix in the middle around which minerals are deposited on the outside to bring structural integrity to the system. It's quite a complicated architectural feat, the architecture of a bone. So when we're supporting and promoting the health of the bone, we don't just give the minerals, because the minerals is just the hard outer shell. We give also the cartilage support that provides the inner matrix of the bone to which the minerals stick. So we got to give both minerals and cartilage, and if we give selenium, while we're doing that, as the selenium affords a greater stickiness to the minerals, it just makes the whole thing work better, right? Just makes the whole thing work better. So the recommendation would be, Troy, and forgive me, it's taken me 10 minutes to get to this, but that's just how I roll. For your dad, for 90 days, the recommendation would be 1 healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month, 1 bottle of selenium per 50 pounds of body weight per month, stopping at 4 bottles a month. If he's over 200 pounds, he only gets 4 bottles a month. And give him 1 capsule of glucogel per 10 pounds of body weight per day. So if he's 210 pounds, he needs 21 glucogel a day, right? So 3 with breakfast, 3 with lunch, 3 with dinner. I would also give him 1 extra bottle of plant-derived minerals, or cherry mins, or the ultimate minerals, which is the liquid minerals in a freeze-dried encapsulated form. And to top it all off, if it's in his budget, because of the stem cell activity in this product, I would give him the Fucoid Z. Not the Z Radical. I'd give him the Fucoid Z as much as he can afford. Nobody knows the dosage of that. If there's spinal stenosis, I would start with 2 bottles a month. if you can only afford 1 bottle a month after you've done everything else, and do 1 bottle a month. But that's how I would do it. That's what I would dial in for 90 days. And just tell your dad, look, man, you can't unsurgery something, right? You can't unsurgery something. And I would do a little Google search, or talk to a surgeon, or talk to some medical professional, or just figure it out for yourself online, what the side effects and or the negative effects probable of the surgical procedure. Because the MDs are not going to tell him that. They're not going to, because, they're trained to not make people frightened, because if you're frightened when you go into surgery, you have a poorer outcome. So they're trained to not tell you all of the bad stuff that could happen, because from their point of view, this is your only option. You don't have any other option, because you can't fix this with anything but drugs and surgery, because in their minds, they're the kings of everything. So they don't have any ethical dilemma with not telling people the negative effects, potentially, of surgery, because from their point of view, you've got no choice. You just have to shut up and do the surgery, keep your fingers crossed. We'll do our very best to, keep from paralyzing you or whatever. But I would educate yourself and him about the negative effects of the surgery and the possible negative outcomes. And, that education in and of itself will probably get him on our side for 90 days. And 90 days is usually all that we need to make a specific and measurable, noticeable change in the health of somebody with a chronic disease. Now, it might take 3 years for him to recover from this completely. Might take 3 months. I don't know. But once we get traction, once we get movement, once the game is afoot and healing has begun, it's only a matter of time until that rolls around all of the way. So, Troy, good luck tomorrow with the football game. Good luck with your dad. Give him the CD. Figure out the side effects of the illness and hook him up with that nutritional support program. Keep your fingers crossed and see what happens. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your friendly neighborhood naturopath, talking about all things pragmatic, practical, and holistic. Practically perfect in every way, the wonders of holistic medicine. We have a special guest with us today. She's calling in with a testimonial. She's an active longevity distributor all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for Miss Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, thanks for calling. Thanks so much for calling. How's it going?
Well, we are doing mighty fine, Dr. Glidden, down here in the South.
Yes, you are. I believe there's a football game there on Sunday. Is that not true?
Yes, sir. There be the Falcons playing.
The two birds are at each other. The two birds.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be a good day. So listen, you're calling with a testimonial, about an injury that you had to your foot. Tell us about it.
Yes, Dr. Glidden. I just wanted to let you know, thank you so much for helping me with my foot. I'm an active runner / walker, jogger, whatever you may want to call it. And I was having foot pains in the inside of my foot, if you will, on the bone there, and it was actually becoming like a bone spur. And you suggested the longevity products as far as the calcium, upping my calcium dose, and upping my vitamins and so forth, and lo and behold, the bone has actually decreased in size back to normal, and I have no more pain, and I can continue running and jogging.
God, I love my job. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like, take me to the hospital now and cut my foot off, right? Before you started the longevity stuff, where was the pain on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, needless to say, I can't stand Western medicine doctors. That's one. So, two, for me to be able to say that maybe I should go have this looked at and possibly have them do what they need to do, I was up there on probably at 11.
For goodness sake, that would almost be like, considering to vote Democratic. Is that right?
Whew, let's not get crazy now. But
all right.
Was,
and how long did it take for that to get better? How many weeks, months? Get ballpark.
I'm going to say maybe 6 weeks.
Yes,
when I
6
was
weeks.
really dosing it. I mean, and I wasn't afraid to do my calcium. I was up in the calcium, and I was not only doing the regular calcium OsteoFX, but I was also doing the Cal-Toddy, like you suggested to me.
Yeah, it's a double header, right? So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. When you provide your body with the raw materials that it needs to fix itself, guess what? It'll fix itself. You got pain, you got a bone spur, you got arthritis, you got spinal stenosis. Whatever it is that you have that involves the bone, I can almost guarantee that you're going to experience success with this stuff because your body knows how to fix itself, your body wants to fix itself. And most of the time, all that's necessary is you just give your body the raw materials that it needs to fix itself and get the heck out of the way. And lo and behold, just like happened with Miss Cheryl from Atlanta, her bone spur and the foot pain disappeared. And ladies and gentlemen, that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Now, all right, Cheryl, I think you had a question about a health condition?
I do, Dr. Glidden. So even though I'm an advocate runner or whatever you want to call it, now that I'm getting back into it, but I'm still experiencing some I'm going to assume, because I never had this before, I was always thin and very fortunate and lucky, lots of energy. And lately, I think it's because, like I said, the menopause and all this good stuff, the middle, like right there in that little pooch, it's giving me trouble to, go away, and it's just fighting me a little bit.
Oh, so you've got a little bit of extra weight gain right around your midsection, right?
It's just right in the stomach area.
All right. Well, there's a saying in medicine that when you hear hoofbeats, you think about horses before you think about zebras, which means you think about the most common things that cause things before you start thinking about esoteric things. The most common cause of that, regretfully, is wheat. There's a term called wheat belly. And the recommendation, in order to make that go away for the first 90 days, what I would recommend is 100% gluten-free. Are you doing the gluten-free diet, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been doing gluten-free, 100%?
Oh, my goodness.
A long time?
For, maybe a good year and a half or so.
All right, okay, so then the only other possibility is too many calories. Too many calories in your diet. So look to see, just eat how you normally eat. And then at the end of the day, figure out how many calories that was. And the goal here is 12 to 1,500 calories a day. 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day. Okay. When you can dial that in, that little belly's going to disappear, and we're up against the heartbreak again. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial.